The RANE 4 is a 4-channel controller meant to bring stem separation into the mainstream. But does it hold up to the hype? Well, that's what I hope to find out today. I'm David Michael, and today we're talking about the RANE 4. What's up, passionate DJs, and welcome to my review of the RANE 4, which is a highly requested piece of hardware for me to cover, to say the least, so I hope you'll enjoy the show. Now, of course, the big deal with the RANE 4 when it came out was its kind of putting to the forefront this use of stems, or, instrument separation in tracks, where you can do things like break the instrumental and acapella into different pieces. And so that is kind of the primary focus of bringing this out, though it's overall a great controller as well. But we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what this controller does and what it's like to use it and all that normal stuff that I cover in these reviews. But we're going to start straight away with what you want to know about with this controller, which is what is it actually like to use stems on the RANE 4. So we're going to cover that really quick, and then we'll get into the rest of it right here on Passionate DJ. Alright, so the first method that we'll talk about for accessing stems is going to be using these acapella and instrumental buttons. Now, this is the simplest and most obvious way to access stems. Simply push acapella and you'll hear only the vocals on this song. And same for instrumental. And here's a fun little trick. If you hold the shift button while you do this, it'll do a little echo out effect on whatever's being removed. So this can be a really neat way to get yourself into a little loop or something without making it super obvious that you just cut the vocals out. And that's basically all there is to it. A common use for stems is simply removing or isolating vocals for a track, so it's a smart design choice to have these two buttons at your fingertips. Well, okay, what if you want to piece your song out just a little bit further? Now for this, RANE included a stems mode for the performance pads. So you just push the stems button above the pads here, and the top 4 buttons will light up blue. Now just use the buttons to add or remove the stem that's indicated here on the screen. The 4 lower pads are used to access stem effects, so whichever effect you have selected will be shown on the screen. Now finally, there's stem split. So, you know how Serato will let you sort of double tap the browse knob to engage instant doubles, which will duplicate the track in another deck? The stem split button does the same thing, except that it separates the vocals and instrumental into their own decks. So this allows you to do cool stuff like scratch and apply effects to only the vocals of a song. When you hit the button, the 2 decks are locked together in perfect sync, so you can scratch, use hot cues, and generally speaking, mix normally. However, if you want to manipulate one of those stems independently, just hit the deck button, like this. So before we move on, who's ready to get a RANE 4? You can order yours from the same place I got this one, the DJ Hookup. They are our DJ hardware partner, and they're the ones that made this video possible. They offer a best price guarantee versus any other authorized dealer, free shipping, 90-day returns, and financing options. Also, they have a little chat bar where you can speak to a knowledgeable DJ hardware rep to kind of help you find what you're looking for at any time. So don't delay, go visit our friends at thedjhookup.com and tell them David from Passionate DJ sent you. So now I hope you sort of understand how the whole stems thing works on here. It's pretty intuitive, pretty easy to use, and Serato's stems sound pretty good. If you want a little bit more of a comparison on what this sounds like in comparison to Virtual DJ and Rekordbox stems, you can actually go back to my review of the Pioneer DDJ FLX10, where I kind of compare those things. But for now, suffice it to say, it's really easy to use, and Serato sounds pretty good as far as DJ software goes when doing this sort of real-time stem separation. Alright, so now that we've covered the basics of using stems, let's peel back the layers of the RANE 4 and talk about what it's like to use as a general DJ controller. You see, there are 4 expectations that I have when it comes to hardware from RANE. It should be sturdy, it should be scratch-friendly, it should tightly integrate with Serato, and it should be forward-thinking, but uncomplicated. So yeah, by the end of this video, we'll determine if it meets my expectations for RANE gear. So what you really notice by looking at the top of the RANE here is just how well built and sturdy it is. I mean, this whole thing is made out of metal, and you can see like here on the sides, we have this like ribbed metal casing, the RANE logo. It all just really inspires confidence. The whole thing is screwed together really well. I really like how this plate is removable here so that these faders are user serviceable. If you look here at the top, you'll notice something that is slightly different, possibly as compared to other controllers, is that you select your USB source for 2 channels at a time. See here, you can select USB A or B, and USB A or B for 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 over here. And the reason it does that is kind of obvious once you understand how stems and specifically the stem split function works, so that you can, you know, kind of keep control of these things on the channels that they're intended for if you break it down into the acapella and instrumental. Outside of that, it's pretty much your basic 4-channel RANE mixer. Really nice faders, really nice paddles, though they're not aluminum die-cast ones like I would have preferred, like you see on some of the RANE mixers, but they are nice and chunky and big and feel nice. Same with all the knobs. They all have a nice little rubberized coating and just feels the way you expect. Now, the jog wheels, of course, are not motorized, which is kind of surprising to some people for a piece of RANE gear. So if you want motorized platters, you would probably be looking at something more like the RANE 1, and that has like really thick, like super solid metal platters on it. These are plastic, but they're big, they're heavy, and they feel really nice, and they spin really smoothly. So I have no complaints about the jog wheel here. Any Scratch DJ is going to feel right at home with this sort of layout and with these large jog wheels, so long as you don't need spinning platters. The pads feel fine. They have a definite engagement, like you can feel when they're on and off. They're not velocity sensitive or anything like that. You've got loop controls here. This is the kind where you just enable a loop here and then you can half or double the size of the loop. Really simple to use. Looking over here at the Mag 4 crossfader, you can see it's really nice and loose in its default tension. It is tension adjustable, though you do need to take this plate off to be able to access that, so you'll kind of want to dial it in once how you like and then put it back and leave it. It's not adjustable on the outside, though the crossfader contour is. So you can adjust that to a real sharp cut for scratching or to a long fade for blending. Up here you have all your effects controls. Here your channel effects, which are your single turn knob effects here. Your filter roll, noise, and flanger. And then below that, you have access to a set of 6 Serato effects. You can see the default ones there, though you can change those to your preferred effects settings. One thing that I think is really cool about the RANE 4 is this little joystick here where you can adjust the parameters for your effects. So you can adjust the BPM up and down by turning it left and right, or by the beat up and down by clicking it up or down. So just a neat little way to do that with the little joystick there. Beat jump controls here at the top left of each deck, which are really handy for skipping around in your track. You can use that knob there to adjust the length of your beat jump and then just click around the track like that. Over here, you've got your stem split controls that we talked about, and also your deck controls, whether you're controlling deck 1 or 3 on this side, or 2 and 4 over there. And that's pretty much all there is to say about the top of this thing, other than it is a very handsome controller. I really like the way it looks. It's probably one of the better looking controllers out on the market. So yeah, kudos to the RANE team for making this thing look nice. I like the little blue accents. I like that the design, you know, as you look at it, it's pretty obvious what everything does, even though this has new features such as the, you know, stems, acapella, and instrumental. If you look at this controller, you're not really confused on how anything works except maybe stem split. So I like that RANE is doing a good job of adding new features without making it hard to understand what they are. If you look down here on the front of the controller, you can see some nice controls here for your second mic. The nice little hardware switch, toggle switch there to turn it on, gain adjustment, and then a little bit of high-low EQ there so you can make it sound how you want. And over here we have our controls for our crossfader, setting, you know, what it's controlling and its contour. And then your headphones connect right over here. This does offer split Q if you prefer that. And you can adjust the mix between what's being cued and what's being output through the main speakers. And on the back here, everything's pretty self-explanatory. You have the power button here next to an IEC power cable. You have your 2 connections to USB right there, so you can connect 2 laptops at a time. You have your main XLR outputs. One nice thing is you can switch right there between stereo and mono output. So if you're connecting to a mono system, you can just ensure at a glance that your output is mono. Also RCA main outs, and of course 1/4-inch booth outputs. It does let you connect turntables to this device, so you can switch between line and phono there, and you've got your ground peg and your 2 XLR 1/4-inch combo jacks for mic inputs. So not a whole lot going on back here, but really flexible, does pretty much everything you need a controller like this to do, and once again, looks really sharp back here. So going back to earlier in the video when I talked about my expectations, does it meet my expectations of RANE gear? Well, is it sturdy? Yes, the RANE 4 is built to last, and that's demonstrated by its full metal enclosure. That top plate is removable, so you can service the faders, which honestly is a great feature that I truly wish more controllers had. And while I would have preferred aluminum paddles like you'd find in the RANE mixers, they are still nicer than those found on other controllers. So is it scratch friendly? Yes, it is, with a caveat. So unlike other RANE gear, it doesn't have motorized platters, but its layout, the inclusion of paddle effects, the way that you could combine slip mode with stem split, it's all built in a way that Scratch DJs will feel right at home. So in my opinion, the Scratch-friendliest setup will always be a real set of high-torque turntables and a battle mixer. But if you want the Scratch-friendliest all-in-one digital DJ setup, well, I'd be eyeballing the RANE 1 instead. Now, is it tightly integrated with Serato? Well, yes, as it should be, since this is a Serato-focused device, but the controller does a great job of showing you, how to use Serato's stem features, and it puts their controls at your fingertips. Which leads us to our last expectation: is it forward-thinking, but without being complicated? And once again, the answer is yes. The stem features are smartly integrated, and they make perfect sense. Or at least I hope they do now that you've watched this video. Now everything else on the controller is pretty much standard RANE fare, with all the controls that you need and little else that you don't. So, okay, being a little bit late on this review means that I have both the burden and the benefit of comparing it to the DDJ FLX10 or Flex 10, which I reviewed back in April, and I'll link that in the description below, of course. Now, I don't have time in this review to get into every single tiny little nitty-gritty detail that separates these two controllers. Now, please leave a comment below if that is something you'd be interested in, as that would be a great candidate for my This versus That series, and if enough people are interested, I'll put that together. But for now, I'll summarize a few main points. Now first, both controllers offer quick, one-button access to stems. While you have Acapella and instrumental buttons on the RANE 4, you get quick access to 3 different parts on the Flex 10: drums, vocals, and instruments. Now that being said, the RANE 4 lets you break it down even further using the pads. Now the Flex 10 lets you easily apply effects to only certain stems using these buttons here. But the RANE 4 gives you effects which help you transition out of stems. You know, like that vocal echo effect. Now the point is, both controllers make different things easily accessible when it comes to stems. Now the Flex 10 is a little fussier in design when you look at the two of them at the same time, but it also offers additional features not found on the RANE 4, such as tension adjustment for the jog wheels. And the Flex 10 also has a DMX lighting output built directly onto the board, which means it's ready to control a light show using record box lighting right out of the box. Now, that's not something you'll ever be able to do on the RANE 4, but that's also something that only a few of you will realistically use. All in all, both are solid choices. If you're unsure, I'd default to the RANE 4 if your preference is Serato, or to the Flex 10 if your preference is record box. And so folks, that's the RANE 4. A terrific device, a great controller with solid build, and brings these new stems things into the mix without making it complicated or confusing or anything like that. I think that you should highly consider getting this if you're a Serato user who wants to play around with stems. This is usually the part of the video where I try to kind of come up with my complaints for a particular piece of gear, and I found trouble coming up with any. This is really a solid recommendation, and if you want one, go straight to the djhookup.com and order yours, because they will definitely take care of you. So thanks once again for watching. I'm David Michael, and this has been Passionate DJ. Keep on spinning.